Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and we are in a slightly different angle of the same office because I am making the most of this while it's available. But it is also a little bit darker, a little bit spookier. Kind of, because spooky season is approaching, so why not discuss how to write a good monster? I love monsters, movie monsters, horror monsters. When you're just not sure if a human is a monster or not, it can just creep up out of nowhere and in so many different ways, and I love it, I love it, I love it. There is nothing that beats a good monster. Maybe a decent magic system, but a good monster is a very, very close second, and they can come in so many different forms. And did I mention that I love it? So I've done a little bit of research, I've done a little bit of back and forth, and I have come up with 5 steps that will help make your monster a little more spine-tingling. And not in the fun way. Well, maybe in the fun way. Depends what you're into, I don't judge. So first off, let's look at what is the goal of your monster. Now, every character needs to have a goal and an aim and all of that good stuff, but that does happen for monsters as well. So really, depending on what your monster is, can change the entire tone of the whole story. Are they a horror-based monster where they're focusing on hunting down players? Are they mysteriously lurking in the shadows? Are they full-on killing people? Or are they more a mythical kind of monster where there's stories about them, both whimsical and horrifying, and you're trying to find out the truth? Does this turn into a mystery fantasy? Or is it something completely different? Could it be magic based? Could it be that the monster is a person that's just like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of situation where it seems like, you know, they seem like a nice guy, but do they have really dark ulterior motives? You have to find the goal of this monster. Is it designed to cause questions? Is it designed to kill and cause terror? Or is it designed to cause whimsy and confusion? The possibilities are endless with this, and honestly, just combining them can be so much fun. Not to mention, having these goals so blunt and upfront, or hidden and misleading, can change character perspective and perception, and that can really, once again, change the course of the story, because the goal of the monster could be something magic-based and whimsical, but all of the stories that the characters have heard are horror-based and terrifying. This clash could make for a really decent plot twist later on, but you need to find out what the monster's goals are compared to what is being shown. Number 2, do not be afraid to draw inspiration from anything and everything. If you want to look at monsters from mythology, if you want to look at what actually makes you scared personally and combine the two, whether it's, you know, maybe something mythological like the Hydra. Cut one head off, 2 more appear. That is a terrifying concept. But then mix that with something that you're afraid of. Maybe, I don't know, I was going to say snake, but you know, Hydra is like part snake anyway, so that's pretty obvious. Let's go with spider. Imagine cutting off a spider's leg only to have like 2 more grow, or cutting off fangs and then have even more teeth grow back. Combine them, terrify yourself, terrify your readers. Just don't be afraid to build on it, because guaranteed if something scares you, then there's going to be other people out there who also have the same fear. But then if you build on it with other fears that you may not have, but you know some people have, combine it, you're going to hit 2 targets with 1 stone, or 1 creature in this case. Just don't openly copy. If you're going to use the Hydra example, don't just use a Hydra, because we have seen those before, and yes, if you have a book that you're writing based around mythology, then it might make sense to have an actual Hydra, but just add your own twists and turns on things, just so you're doing trope subversion, which leads us into number 3. Know your tropes. And by that I mean, what is always the case when it comes to horror monsters? They are always hidden in shadows, they are always big, they are always grim and dark, they're always mysteriously shadowed away. What if you had something that was like bright and proud, like I am here to destroy you now? Just have that trope subversion. Just engage your readers to expect the unexpected, because when they hear that there is something in the woods after them, you're automatically thinking this big shadowy creature that's going to be hunting them down. Maybe it's got like dark fur, big teeth, werewolf style kind of thing. Imagine how surprised they're going to be if it ends up being like a unicorn or something. Just what do you want to change to avoid being predictable? And there is no such thing as going too out there. I mean, you look at some horror movie stuff, you look at some creepypastas, and like creepypasta horror movie stuff, that is so over the top and insane, but it really makes an impact. It's why it's got such a big fandom, it's why it's lasted so long and still going. I mean, when you think of like the dark creepy thing in the woods, Slender Man, like a tall faceless man in a suit, is not what you first expect. That's why it works. Just add your own little twists and turns here and there. Know the tropes and know how to change them, because that sort of adds to the monster mystery when you don't quite know what's around the corner. Number 4. Who is the monster? Now this kind of goes back to linking in with goals, but no, I'm talking about origins, I'm talking about a kind of species if you can link it close enough to being a species. I'm just talking about where it began and where it's coming from in order to know what the goal is. You don't have to put all of this in the story, because if the readers know too much at once, then they're instantly going to know the strengths, they're instantly going to know the weaknesses, and it's not going to be as much of a fight, it's not going to be as much of a scare or a thrill, it's not going to be that interesting to read. However, if you know all of this, then you can leave little breadcrumbs here and there that the readers can pick up along the way, and it works so well if there's a red herring in the mix, or you've done your trope subversion well, because they're going to be going into it thinking, yeah, we've gathered all of these clues and we know exactly what's going on and we know how to beat this thing, only to show up and it be like, oh, those things were its strengths, not its weaknesses, we're in trouble now. It might not even be relevant to the story to know where your monster came from, or it doesn't matter if it came from some hidden cave deep under the ocean or if it fell from the sky. It might not matter, it might not even come up in the story, but if you already have this planned out, then it is going to leave that trail and build that suspense so much better. Finally, number 5, descriptions. Now, let's not get this confused with an exposition dump. If your character is seeing this thing for the first time and they are terrified, their mind is going to be doing some strange stuff. Things might be exaggerated. They might not be able to take in the whole thing at once. They might just be able to be like, eyes, teeth, claws, I'm out of here kind of thing. So they might not be able to paint the most reliable picture, especially if there's only one character that's seeing this thing. Sorry, I ran out of air for a minute there. But if only one character is seeing this and they're so overwhelmed and terrified of this thing, or stunned, or in awe of this thing, just whatever their reaction is, it's going to be very quick and sudden. So when they quickly race back to the gang and say, hey, Scooby Gang, this is what I saw, they're not going to be the most reliable person, but they can still give decent descriptions that other characters can pick up and paint their own pictures in their head, because they weren't there, they've only got this one guy to rely on, and he was out of his mind at the time. Just don't give too much too soon, because there is nothing worse than just having the entire picture handed to you on a plate, and then you're just like, well, now I know what this thing looks like, and that takes away some of the thrill and some of the mystery. I know what to expect now. And that's just not a fun read. Maybe people have taken pictures of this thing, but this thing moves so fast that they could only get a picture of a claw or a tail or some scales or something like that. That nothing is ever coherent, nothing ever quite fits together. You've just heard stories and rumours about this thing. Save your big reveal for a big, big moment. Save it for... leave it as late as possible, but still give enough to keep us interested. Still give enough for us to paint a picture in our head, but it's fuzzy, it's not quite clear, because that keeps us interested. And it's not like with character descriptions or locations and things like that, because we need those pictures. We need to know what the place looks like in order to fully visualize. But with monsters, you can be a little bit more discreet and a little bit more suspenseful, and it just works. So those are my 5 tips on how to create a monster. Now, I haven't actually said anything about actual scary imagery or anything like that, because monsters, everyone has their own personal monster. So when I say this, I mean that it could be a figurative monster, like a looming figure in someone's life, or it could be a literal, about to rip your throat out with his teeth kind of monster. It's completely up to you, but these things, these 5 steps just still relate, because you can just do whatever you want with them and combine them, and monsters are so fun to write. There's never really a dull moment when a monster is involved, and the fact that they come in so many shapes and sizes, and your imagination and your creativity it just holds no limits, so why should your monster have limits as well? To be honest, all of this kind of goes with creating your own new species as well, if you were going to go down that route, because you could create a whole civilization with inspiration, description, mystery, misleading, goals, origins. Diverse bit of advice here. I hope it kind of works. Yep, but I'm going to leave it here before I end up rambling on even more. I hope this did help in some way, and please let me know any really cool, spooky style monsters that you've come up with, because I love monsters so much. I hope you are staying safe, I hope you're doing well, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, my scribblers.